All right, well, thank you, everybody. As you guys have already met Mark Templeton and D-Raj, we're not going to introduce them today, but I want to introduce the rest of the panel, and again, we have 25 minutes, so we've got to go quick. We have Casey Choi, VP Enterprise Group, Global Solutions Architecture and Engineering at HP. Casey's team provides strategic technology infrastructure and cloud solutions design and architecture advisory services for HP's corporate, enterprise, and government customers in the United States, Canada, and Latin America. That is one long sentence, that's for sure. We also have Mike Stroll. Mike Stroll is President and CEO of Entasys Solutions and a great boss. Mike brings more than 2 decades of operations and management to his leadership and role at our company. Just so you guys know, Mike was actually recently announced as one of the top 100 executives in CRN magazine. So congratulations, Mike. We have Mike Riley with NetApp. Mike, I heard you say earlier that your title doesn't fit on a business card, but I'm going to try anyway. Mike Riley has been with NetApp for over 15 years, currently serving as Director of Strategy and Technology Worldwide Sales at NetApp. Not too bad. That's not a too bad one. And he brings his customer perspective at various IT operations from Northrop Grumman, Sears, and JP Morgan. So thank you. And we also have at the end, Wes Wright. Wes is Senior VP and Chief Information Officer for Seattle Children's Hospital. He is responsible for strategic direction and day-to-day operations and the delivery and information technology services for his organization, which is right now $1 billion of not-for-profit. So that's fantastic news. So thank you for attending. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to try to relate this to a little bit of what we've had up already on the board today, which is kind of what is IT meaning? Where is IT evolving to? And in this case, we're going to talk specifically about HP's new style of IT. So let me go ahead and describe it to you. Bill Vetti, who is the EVP and General Manager of the Enterprise Group at HP, he summarizes the new style of IT as promising simplicity, greater agility, faster speed, and lower cost. And it is being driven by the interrelated trends of cloud, social, security, mobility, and big data. So a lot of things that we're dealing with now. So this is a question for Casey and Mike Riley. So we're going to start with Casey. So what is the single most important development or change in business technology that is and will continue to drive this transformation?
Yeah, so I had a couple of thoughts and responses prepared for this, but if
25 minutes.
Yeah, 25 minutes, right? So if I were to boil it down to one word, and I think Mark touched on it a little bit in his talk, right? It's the word ubiquity, and this access to capability that is being provided now to the consumer of the solution, right? Whether it's an IT organization or it's a line of business or whoever wants to have that business outcome happen. I think the amount of choice that's available there, whether it's as a cloud service or as an on-prem service or as a managed service, to me, that opportunity and that phenomenon is creating both, I think, a great opportunity for IT as well as I think probably our greatest threat, which is this intermediation that's going on in regards to the ability of not having IT have a role in what's happening there. And this is not only in infrastructure services that we've come to know and love. It's really now happening in fully formed IT services as well, right? So as you look at these providers coming to market with analytic services, it'd be platform services, fully formed applications, I think it really puts a different sort of pressure in many respects on what IT has to do to step up to that. And combine that with what's really happening around the secular trends of the consume side of IT, which is the ability of consumers, the people that are actually looking for these outcomes, to get access and to have the devices and to have the capabilities that in many cases are surpassing our ability as IT professionals and as IT organizations to provide that. I think it really provides a situation where we're at risk of being disintermediated, and hence this call for simplicity, the ability to get agility, the ability to get this ubiquity of solutions out there, I think is probably the most contemporary challenge that we've got as IT professionals in the room. So I would say that kind of defines it for me.
Okay, Mike?
I just want to pick up on your point on the consumer side. So in 1984, not to be too Orwellian about this, but there was 1,000 devices connected to the internet. I think last year there were 10 billion.
There's probably 1,000 in the room.
At least. Yeah. Well, here's the key thing is 10 billion devices, 77 billion downloads, and that's 1% of the world population participating. 1%. 99% of the people haven't. So 99% of the consumers, potential consumers, haven't participated. So the explosion of data that's on the horizon here is going to demand simplicity. It's going to demand solutions that, you know, when you start talking about cloud, it gets even more mundane than just, oh, could you just keep it simple? And you think about the amount of data that we generate on a daily basis, the crossover between consumer and business. Businesses are hardly participating in this, as an aside. Go back to your fundamentals. How do you back that stuff up? I mean, you start talking about the threats and the things you have to consider. We chase the shiny objects. Well, there's Flash out there, and there's software-defined this, and there's software-defined that. And meanwhile, there's somebody in a basement somewhere looking at a tape silo going, I have no idea how I'm going to back all this stuff up. So there's blocking and tackling in our future of monolithic scales. So before we go off and, you know, we take all the guys that want to be on the special projects and work on all the cool stuff and sit at the cool kids table, and somebody better go down there and give that backup administrator a raise, because I think that's where the next frontier is going to be.
Mike, you depress me. I'm depressed now.
So the next question is, thank you, by the way, for Mark and D-Raj. So we definitely already saw your presentations, and those were wonderful presentations. Beyond your presentations, what else is your organization doing to address this new style of IT for your customers?
So Mark, or go ahead. Well, I gave it some thought, and I said, if you look at cloud and social and big data and mobility, there's one thing in common. And that one thing in common is liberation and empowerment and flattened organizations and so on. The cloud is about breaking away from IT. Social is about flat organizations and grassroots empowerment. Mobility is about flexibility and empowerment. And what's the last thing you mentioned? Mobility and big data. Big data is about breaking away from oracles and warehouses and flatter infrastructures and no need for SAN and so on. Java guys just want to build analytics without having to go back to the SQL guys and so on. So I think what's the common theme around all these technologies? It's, people call it agility, time to value, speed to market. It's really liberation and empowerment, which is what made NetApp such a big company, which is what made VMware such a big company, which is what made Microsoft such a big company. We just sell OPM to the masses. We go and sell infrastructure to the app guys.
Yeah.
We sell infrastructure to the app guys because that's what
You may want to go with infrastructure. Just a thought on your market.
Yeah, I didn't think that was going to look good on a title of a business card. I just didn't think it would work out.
Yeah, by the way, this is why I really hate calling the people we serve end users, because the only others that call them that are drug dealers. So I like to think of subscribers, viewers, consumers, you know.
Valued customers.
Yes, you know.
But yeah, I think, we go and sell infrastructure to the app guys, and that's really flattening things and empowering them. And eventually it's all about agility, time to value, but about liberation.
You know, I'm not sure what I could add to what I said, but I think, where we're headed, all right, is today, I mean, if you think of a year ago, we'd have been, talking about mobile first, whoever the speakers were, mobile first, cloud first, it's like, to me, that's like either in the category of duh, all right, or not meaningful. In fact, I think if you want to talk about first, it's about experience first and security first. And everything else is secondary. And I think, I don't know if Dheeraj said or Mike said, kind of getting back to some fundamentals. And the fundamentals are around being an organization that is delivering tools to people to be more productive and to, support the initiatives of the organization. So when I think of the big picture and where we're going, sort of in a couple of years, we're going to be talking a lot about autonomics, because, what Dheeraj said around the complexity of all this virtualization, server virtualization, hasn't really simplified much. So autonomics are going to be important. And then in parallel along the way is all of this predictive stuff. And we're going to be, like 5 years, we're going to be talking about, predictive workplace or the predictive data center or whatever. But what I'd say is, what we're trying to do is help you move your conversation and how you see yourself from being the owner and operator of a factory, all right, to actually the distributor and retailer of goods that have finished goods, that where you have a relationship with the consumer. And because that's where the value creation is. And so my advice would be commoditize thyself, and thyself meaning, being the builder and designer of the data center, and so that you can move on, to distribution and retail, et cetera, because that's where the value creation is for a business, period. That's why Apple, you see, you look at their packaging. What does it say? Designed in California, assembled in China. All right. So that tells you where the value creation. They think the value creation is in the design, the experience, the retail, controlling that, including vertical integration of the device, and then the assembly, et cetera. To them, it's important. It must be quality, but that's not where the value creation is. It's actually close up to the consumer.
Cool. So Mike and Wes, how does this new style of IT impact priorities or even areas of focus for your organizations? So Mike? Stroll.
I got the mic. Okay, good. Let's see. How does the new style of IT do what? It's very confusing, Al. This is what makes me such a good boss, right?
How does a new style of IT make you pay attention?
How does it potentially change or impact priorities or your areas of focus?
Okay, so from our standpoint, first of all, we've had the pleasure of listening to all these guys speak, and really the first thought process that goes into how we handle things is just the way we address the products that we select, the partnerships we choose, and the way that we engage you as customers, and the way that we engage our employees and even hire our employees. Jody spoke earlier about something that's very deep and very meaningful to us, which is the customer experience and the employee experience. But what that experience is and what drives that is where what I believe the real passion comes from. So I've spent a lot of time with HP, the new style of IT. Had the pleasure of doing an interesting role play with Meg around some of the messaging around the new style of IT. She won, I lost, but whatever, it was fine. But the interesting thing is, unless you have game-changing technology, even me as somebody that's been in this industry for years, I really don't want a product presentation. I don't want to partner with someone that only wants to give me product presentations. I really love the lights and the blinky things that you put together. I want somebody that comes in and has the ability, passion, and experience to understand what is important to my organization, and then I want them to align me with gentlemen like this in order to create real business value that I can take back to my company. And that is, in my opinion, the essence from the partner side of things of what the new style of IT is all about.
Wes?
I'm still trying to get the old style of IT to work right. So I don't know about the whole new style of IT. I'm as the dummy on the stage. I think it's an evolution for us, for healthcare industry. Number one, healthcare industry is probably 5 years behind everybody else from an IT perspective. You know, I've got $1 bazillion invested in old style IT, and it's those new killer apps that come along that make me invest in the new style of IT. I just actually, while we're up on stage, I sent a message to my senior director for enterprise architecture to, hey, Nutanix, find out about it. So, you know, I'm still, you know, I've got my S5, you know, safety, stability, speed, security, and simplicity. That's my old IT. That's what I'm looking out for. And if the new IT can come into that without breaking my old IT, then I'm good. I'm good with it. But you know, let me get the old stuff down. You know, it's like big data. I'm still playing with small data. I don't have time to get to that big data stuff.
So speaking of big data, so this is a question for KC and from Mike Riley. So information roughly growing at 59% annually, and about 15% of that actually being structured. What should clients be doing today in order to prepare for what is coming tomorrow with big data?
So Mike had that was an absolutely eloquent answer, by the way. I think the biggest thing on prepping for big data has nothing to do with the stuff you buy. I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with just skill sets, primarily. I mean, I suffer from this in my organization as well. I mean, I have a lot of people that talk SQL speak, right? And for those of us that grew up with SQL, the great thing about it was a very simple language. You know, you select from a certain type of data, and you're looking for these types of ranges of data, and you want to bring it in, and you want to join it with other data. And the biggest thing for me is, how do I get that organization that's really fluent in that language to think about questions that they can't ask in SQL, right? Because that's really the opportunity that's afforded by, you know, medium data, big data, whatever you want to call it, right? There's more of it. So, you know, the question that we're starting to ask even clients is, if you had the ability to do it, right? If you could ingest everything that's happening in your enterprise and put that in real time, what questions could you ask of it, right? What would be the questions? So, you know, you go to United Airlines and say, if you could put all of flight operations, all of gate scheduling, all of ticketing, and have all that access on a real-time basis, I mean, what could you ask of it? And frankly, they have a tough time answering that, right? And I think most organizations have a tough time answering that. So I think that's primary number one. The second thing that worries me, frankly, is, you know, so far to date on big data, we've only switched on kind of what I call the commercial, you know, IP type data, right? And TCP IP oriented data. What's coming on behind this is really all the stuff that we've got that is, you know, industrial data, right? This is device data. It's all the stuff that's starting to happen really in things that, you know, most of us probably in this room don't deal that much with, right? It's not system of record data. It's all the stuff that's starting to happen from sensors. It's happening from, you know, autonomous drive vehicles, all these new use cases and applications that are starting to happen. And that hasn't been switched on yet. So again, the key for me is, you know, thinking about that skill set, and then secondly, kind of preparing for this day that's coming really soon, where that industrial internet data is going to start combining with our commercial internet data, right? And affording some different, you know, kind of unique opportunities there. So that's kind of what I'm starting to foresee there.
Yeah, I like Wes's answer of, most of the customers I talk to, they hear about big data, they're still wrestling with small data. Yeah. And so, you know, if I had advice and in what to prepare or what to look into, you know, specific skill sets, statistical analysis would be one. How to ask the right questions, correlations, NoSQL, OpenStack. I mean, there's some stuff out there, right, that I'd say a fraction of the people have experience in. But once you start seeing a bigger intersection between, when they do switch on that consumer side and they do start to draw those correlations, you got to know the right questions to ask. You can't just, I mean, the world's moving to object storage. That's pretty clear. But, you know, how do you aggregate it, and now what do I do with it is the second question. I don't think we have enough experience in the field right now to ask those right questions. So the biggest catalyst within your IT organizations are really going to be those market analysis people. Market analysis is going to go from segment to individual. And if you can't make the transition between balkanizing that consumer market, you know, well, women like this and men like that and men over 50 like this and so forth, you're going to have to zero in on what does Garage like to do? And I think it's really cool that we question, and this goes back, Mark, to one of your comments on security. We question when the government takes a peek at our emails. But we'll go out to Facebook and we share everything. We turn it all over. So if you want to know what religion and if you're married and where you shop and all of your Amazon purchase, all that's available. Every last bit of it's available, and we volunteer it. We volunteer it. So somebody is going to have to make the transition between marketing to a group and marketing to the individual, and you've seen glimpses of that already. The storage guys, quite honestly, are not going to be the key to that. It is going to be the marketing people that can make sense of that.
Yeah, we call it personalized medicine.
There you go.
Is what the path we're moving down now, to where, you know, we sequence your genome and see if Claritin or something else works better for you.
Now, so quick question on that one, Wes, because what I heard from the vendors, we have HP and the NetApp answering those questions, was that you as the clients have to develop that skill set. So are you developing that skill set yourself, or are you looking for the vendors to provide that for you, or at least give you some visibility?
Yeah, we're developing ourselves. We don't just have a Seattle Children's Hospital. We also have Seattle Children's Research Institute, at which we cured cancer, by the way. I just thought I'd put that out there. Look it up, we did. 12 kids now. 12 kids, immunotherapy, splice their T cells with something else that goes in there, kills the cancer. They won't say we cured it because apparently you got to wait 5 years before it's a cure. I'm saying it, I'm an IT guy. I can say it's cured. Yeah. So we're developing that ourselves in our research institute. All the gene sequencing equipment and all that stuff sits over there. And so they're sequencing the gene at the research institute, and that's what makes us special. They do that at the research institute, but over at the hospital, we take that data and take it to the bedside so that we can do personalized medicine.
Congratulations, by the way, that's fantastic.
I'll take that back to them.
So my favorite movie line from 2014 was, "Nobody understands the cloud, it's a mystery," right? I saw that, the first time I saw that, I started cracking up. My wife looks at me like, "Why are you even laughing? That's not that funny." And I'm like, "It is for me." So with the security concerns from celebrities to credit cards and Target, Home Depot, Mark, this question's for you. If organizations have security concerns, how can they be leveraging the cloud today?
I hate when I draw the short straw. Well, first of all, a lot of those examples have nothing to do with the cloud, and I think it's actually the number one issue that we face, and that is the misunderstanding of it, and then it gets explained by these breaches, et cetera, that don't really have a lot to do with it. The cloud has nothing to do with when someone's credentials get compromised, stolen,
Social
shared, social engineering, et cetera. That's just a fact. In fact, I think for the most part, cloud-based systems have higher levels of security built into them than most IT organizations. I think they'll actually stand up to security audits better than most IT organizations. And really, for a very simple factor, they're usually focused on a single entry point, a single use case, et cetera, where IT organizations have a much more complex environment, I think, which is harder to secure by definition and includes, people with credentials and, machine-to-machine kinds of credentials. And so I think the cloud is getting a bad rap when it comes to security. And at the same time, I think, it's something that we are concerned, we're doing things about to make the cloud more consumable as an adjunct to data centers. And so it would be as if you want to add, you want to add capacity to a data center, and you need to be able to, have a secure connection, secure that where storage interfaces, where data and application interfaces can travel across Active Directory and kind of all these things. And so that's where we've been spending our time in this area. But, I don't know, tough question.
And D-Raj, I mean, I guess, how does that fit with your model for your business? How would that integrate?
Well, I think, we've been using cloud for more than a decade now. If you go back to Intuit and TurboTax and ADP and Paychex and Salesforce.com and GoToMeeting and WebEx, all that's cloud. Now you see like Workday and NetSuite and tons of these SaaS apps now, that are just cloud. There's Office 365. Tons of firms are going to Office 365 as opposed to managing their own Exchange and SharePoint and so on. There's Google Apps. So it's happening. I mean, to say that cloud has the security liability attached to it is actually a little bit, I would say, probably, an ostrich in the sand kind of an approach. I think what Steve Jobs said about security, if you go back to 2009, most people said Apple will never succeed in the enterprise. And BlackBerry's whole FUD was about security. Like, oh, this is about emails and enterprise security servers, this, that, blah. Ease of use trumps everything. Security has a way of working out, period. And that's what we believe will happen to the cloud for everything in general out there. So the more we go out there with this thing that, look, if it happened to Apple and iPad and iPhones and so on, which were not secure to begin with, against this highly secure BlackBerry, phone and enterprise BlackBerry server, I think it's going to happen to everything else as well.
Yeah, the one thing to add is the cloud is not a place. It's a way of doing something, and you choose the place to do that. And it can be, inside the, walls of your data center. So I think, kind of asserting that in your organization to take the heat off of the notion of cloud and, don't think of it as a place. Then I think you can make a lot of progress on that.
Mike Stroll. To speed it up, we just got a couple more minutes left, so you have to make it quick, just letting you know ahead of time. What's the first thing our clients in the room should be doing when they get back to the office on Monday morning? By the way, I said Monday morning.
Calling Agile360 and asking for a meeting with Citrix, HP, NetApp, and Nutanix, and the other three that you mentioned earlier. Secondly, telling everybody how awesome this event was and how fabulous Kathy and her team are putting together awesome events like this.
All right, final question. Real quickly, one sentence. Try to give your best technical prediction, whether it's consumer-based IT, whether it's the people that are affecting in the room from the back end side to deliver the technology. Give me kind of like a one-sentence prediction for the next 5 years. We'll start with Mike Riley.
Okay. The only thing I can tell you about forecasts is they're all wrong. Okay, so I think there's going to be an inflection point where people, every individual, every consumer will have to decide for themselves how much of their personal liberty and privacy they're willing to trade off for convenience and profit. And I think once government shakes the hands of private industry, healthcare, insurance, auto insurance, utility companies, smart meters, and so forth, and they know everything about you, I'm not necessarily sure that's a great thing.
Anybody else got one?
Just on that, extending on what Mike and Casey mentioned, I think, it's this emergence of a fully connected person in that sense, where your watch is connected to your car, is connected to your washer, is connected to your thermostat, is connected to your calendar, is connected to, pretty much everything. It's all connected, and work and life are one. So I think it's a massive opportunity for a company like Citrix to go and really make it seamless,
I'll just say something on it is, and not to get real esoteric about it, but I think one of the things that we know is going to happen is, and I think Nutanix represents it, and some of the other, what the vendors are doing is, the infrastructure is going to continue to get more simplified, and frankly, in the overall scheme of things, less relevant, right? Because it has to, because the outcomes have to matter more. So the time we spend on it has to get minimized at the end of the day. So I brought a sample of what we think this is going to look like, since I'm trying to, instead of talking with words, talk with images. So, we think the infrastructure in the next 3 to 5 years is going to start looking more like this, right? Where it's going to be highly compressed, it's going to be highly power efficient, it's going to be highly consolidated, and where we're seeing memory and other things go, it's going to be effectively, the computer or the server of the future, something of this size, of this weight, that has everything you need on it, and something that will be, very universally available and ubiquitous, right? And the fact that you can place something like this at, where the data is occurring, right, is happening, is going to be really important. So this is kind of one vision of what we think the future in the next 3 to 5 years is going to look like, and this is, again, a research effort we've got going on at HP. So this is kind of the way I would predict kind of one aspect of the future that we're thinking about is something that comes in this form factor that will do the things that we're asking, computing to do today, right, around big data and analytics and so forth.
Wonderful. Well, let's thank you to the panelists. Appreciate it. Jody, you're on up. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.